Here's a question for you. Why is it that we feel the most intense, just overwhelming guilt about being lazy right after we've pushed ourselves to the absolute physical point of collapse?
Right, when your body is literally screaming for a break.
Exactly. That moment, that feeling.
That whole phenomenon, that's stress-induced post-exhaustion spiral where, you desperately need rest, but your inner voice is just screaming that you're a fundamental failure. That is the exact problem we're diving into today.
Absolutely. We are here to challenge that entire toxic internal narrative by exploring a really radical premise, the idea that laziness does not exist.
And our guide for this, our source, is the book that articulates this concept so powerfully. It's called Laziness Does Not Exist, A Defense of the Exhausted, Exploited, and Overworked.
And if you enjoy these kinds of deep dives into the world's best books, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, Audible so you never miss one.
Now, this isn't just an opinion piece. The author, Dr. Devon, is an assistant clinical professor of applied psychology and data science at Loyola University, Chicago. So we're grounded in some serious research here.
And this idea, it went viral for a reason. The original essay was read by millions. It's been translated into Spanish, Japanese, Mandarin, you name it.
Which tells you this isn't just, an American burnout thing. This is a worldwide epidemic of self-punishment.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to extract the key insights from Dr. Price's work that can hopefully fundamentally shift how you view your time, your worth, and your basic need to just stop.
And it's not a time management guide. It's an argument for liberation from self-blame.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have to start with the personal story behind the book because Dr. Price, well, they didn't start out as some kind of self-care guru. Far from it.
Not at all. They describe their reputation as this put-together, organized, diligent little worker bee. The person who could do it all.
The ideal, right? Balancing academic success, creative projects, social activism, never turned in work late, always available for friends. The person you call to edit your cover letter at midnight.
That was the public face, the carefully curated veneer. But behind the scenes, the reality was, well, it was catastrophic.
They called themselves a wreck, spending hours alone in the dark, just feeling completely overstimulated, too drained to even read a book for fun.
And this is the critical part. All that overcommitment led to this deep, simmering resentment for every single person they said yes to.
That's the signal, isn't it? That it's not coming from a healthy place. It's driven by this paralyzing fear of being seen as useless or selfish or
lazy, the worst word of all.
It drove them into this just exhausting cycle, nonstop work sprints, sometimes 5 or 6 hours straight without a single break.
We've all done that, right? Push through.
Yeah.
They'd be so focused on grading papers or answering emails that they'd forget basic things.
Like eating.
Or stretching. Or even just, going to the bathroom. You get in that flow state, and it feels productive, but it's completely unsustainable.
And what follows a sprint like that?
A crash.
Yeah.
A total collapse. The afternoons and weekends would just dissolve into mindlessly scrolling social media or
Eating chips in the dark, watching YouTube. That's a very specific image.
it is. And then comes the engine of the whole problem, the guilt loop. As soon as they felt even a little bit recharged, bam, the guilt would hit. A moral panic over the wasted time.
And then stressing about the next day's to-do list, feeling like you should have used that downtime.
Like overwork, collapse, self-shame, repeat.
Yeah.
That is the mechanism the book wants to dismantle.
It actually took a full-on physical revolt from their body to force the cycle to stop.
Yeah, this was back in early 2014. Dr. Price was finishing their PhD dissertation. And the pressure was it was at an absurd level.
They were working endless hours in the lab. They moved 2 blocks away from the university just to cut out the commute.
And get this, they intentionally didn't buy furniture or set up home internet.
Why?
Because they saw those things as distractions from productivity. Unnecessary.
Wow. And the body did not agree.
Not at all. The body always keeps a score. They developed this debilitating flu that just would not go away. It lasted for months.
Which then led to severe anemia and a new heart murmur.
And for nearly a year, they're bundled in electric blankets, even on hot days, but still trying to hide how sick they were from their employer, for fear of
appearing lazy or unreliable.
Of course. And the doctors were baffled. They tested for everything, lupus, mono, you name it. They couldn't find a cure.
Because it wasn't strictly a medical problem.
Exactly. The realization finally hit in November 2014. The solution was forced rest. They just
Yeah.
stopped. Skipped meetings, stopped trying to juggle everything. For 2 months, they were completely, guiltlessly unproductive.
And that's what finally led to healing.
That's what did it. And out of that personal, really dramatic breakdown, the concept of the laziness lie, the LO was born.
So if it's this deep-seated cultural system, how does Dr. Price actually define it? What is the laziness lie?
The LL is presented as this belief system that's responsible for all the self-disappointment, the burnout, the stress-related illnesses that so many of us face. It's an internalized dogma.
And at its core,
It's one single insidious belief. Deep down, I'm lazy and worthless. Therefore, I must work incredibly hard all the time to prove my value and overcome my inner laziness. My worth is earned exclusively through my productivity.
and that fear isn't just in our heads, right? It's tied to survival. In our society, the stakes of not being productive are huge.
They're immense.
Yeah.
Unemployed and impoverished people die at significantly younger ages. The fear of being useless is very, very deeply connected to the fear of being disposable.
So the fear makes sense economically, but the behavior it causes, the compulsive overwork and self-denial, is what's so destructive.
Precisely. And to understand how we get so trapped, we have to look at the 3 core tenets that define and reinforce this lie.
Okay, let's break down that first one. It seems obvious, but it's so deeply baked into our culture. Your worth is your productivity.
Right. And this does more than just encourage hard work. It creates a moral hierarchy. It says that if you're super accomplished and working long hours, you are a morally superior person.
And if you're not,
Then you're morally deficient or corrupt. And we see this most aggressively in the people who are already working themselves into the ground. They're the ones who are most terrified. They aren't earning their keep.
which leads perfectly into the second tenet, the one designed to make you ignore your body's own warning system.
Yes. Tenet 2. You cannot trust your own feelings and limits.
So if you feel tired,
The lie says that's not a signal you need sleep. It's proof you're being weak and lazy. If you can't focus, it's not because your brain is fried. It's because you're not taking on enough to stay stimulated.
we're basically taught to wage war on our own biology.
Completely. Dr. Price even mentions that during their illness, their own doctor doubted how high their fever was. They had to record their temperature every night just to have proof that they were sick enough to deserve rest.
Needing rest becomes a moral trial. You have to win.
Exactly. And the third tenet, make sure you can never, ever actually win. It is. There is always more you could be doing.
Ah, the moving goalpost.
It's a permanently moving goalpost. You're a diligent employee. Great. The lie says you should be volunteering more or learning a new skill.
You win a huge career-defining award.
The lie doesn't say congratulations. It says, that's nice. What's next? How are you leveraging this?
So no amount of success or exhaustion ever gives you permission to just stop and exist.
Never. It's a perfectly crafted cultural machine for perpetual exhaustion.
And the book really drives this home with some heartbreaking case studies. Real people showing the physical cost of living by that first tenet.
Let's talk about Max. She was a writer at an IT firm, and she was consistently working 80 to 90-hour weeks.
It was just insane.
And it wasn't because she was trying to be CEO. It was because of poor structural support. Coworkers weren't giving her the info she needed, so she had to scramble to find it herself just to hit these crazy deadlines.
So the workload itself was abusive, and the physical consequences.
Catastrophic. Max knew she was doing too much, but the fear of her manager picking apart her reasons for needing time off was worse than the physical pain she was in.
What happened?
She developed an inflamed, completely dead gallbladder. By the time she finally got to a hospital, she was vomiting constantly. She could barely move.
And the surgeon actually lectured her, didn't he, asking why she waited so long?
He did, but that's the point. For Max, the fear of seeming lazy was more terrifying than the fear of catastrophic organ failure.
Then there's Michael, the bartender in Chicago. A similar story, a similar fear.
He had this pervasive anxiety that he just wasn't working enough, so he compulsively took every single shift offered to him.
Leading to a schedule where he was sleeping maybe a couple of hours between shifts.
The book says he logged an astounding 380 hours of work in one March.
380. For context, a normal 40-hour work week is about 160 hours a month. He worked more than double that.
And the physical breakdown was almost identical to the others. He started vomiting blood, developed a nasty chill, but he just kept pushing, trying to save his business through sheer physical will.
And what's so tragic about these stories is this paradox the book keeps highlighting.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The people logging the most hours, the ones who look the most successful on the outside, they're the ones who are most convinced that they're failures, that deep down they're selfish and lazy.
Which brings us to the book's core, really radical argument that what we call laziness is almost never a character flaw. It's actually a sign of an intense fight against profound, unseen barriers.
Yes. Dr. Price argues that the apathy we judge so harshly in others and in ourselves is almost always the result of some kind of invisible suffering. We just fail to apply what they call compassionate curiosity.
And that suffering can be anything: chronic depression, anxiety, trauma, poverty.
Or just the immense invisible labor of caring for a sick family member or a child with special needs. When a person is pushed to their absolute emotional or financial limit, the result can look, to an outsider, like they're just checked out.
The story about the student is one of the most powerful examples of this.
Oh, it's brutal. In one 16-week semester, she experienced just an unimaginable series of tragedies. A parent died,
Her house was destroyed in a natural disaster.
and her daughter was hospitalized.
Any one of those things would take a person out. But she still felt this overwhelming guilt about missing assignments.
So much so that she carried detailed documentation with her everywhere.
Yeah.
Death certificates, hospital papers, to prove to her professors that the tragedies are real.
The fear of being accused of faking it, of
Yeah.
being lazy.
It just shows how deeply this lie is embedded in our systems, in education, in work. We assume failure is a moral failing, not a resource failing.
And that's the core structural problem, right? When the demands on you consistently exceed your available resources, time, money, emotional energy, the result can look like you're doing nothing at all.
Exactly. So if the problem isn't moral, but biological and structural, then we have to completely rethink what apathy and low motivation even are.
The laziness lie says they're character flaws.
But Dr. Price argues they are a valuable warning sign, a highly evolved, dynamic system screaming for peace and quiet.
Like other survival mechanism.
Precisely. When you're hungry, your body doesn't just rumble. Your mind becomes preoccupied with food, you get lethargic. When you're sleep deprived, your brain will literally force you into microsleeps to survive.
So that sudden, overwhelming urge to just zone out or scroll on your phone.
That's your brain protecting itself. It's an involuntary effort to prevent a total system shutdown. The body forces the brake because the mind refuses to give permission.
And the science on human limitation backs all of this up, doesn't it?
Mm.
The 40-hour work week is considered standard.
It is. But the research shows that once you go past 50 hours, your productivity declines sharply.
And past 55.
Past 55 hours, you might as well not be at work at all.
Yeah.
You're there physically, but the output is negligible. You're probably making mistakes that someone else will have to fix.
And industrial organizational psychology, the field that actually studies workplace behavior, their findings are even more striking.
They are. IO researchers consistently find that for the average office worker, the amount of time they are truly cognitively productive is only about 3 hours per day.
3 hours, that's it.
That's the peak focused high-value work. The other 5 hours are spent on necessary things but not productive work, socializing, preparing food, walking around, staring into space.
Which really changes the whole debate around cyberloafing, doesn't it? Managers see scrolling on your phone as time theft.
They see it as billions of dollars in lost productivity, a lazy intentional act.
But the counterargument is that it's actually an essential, involuntary attempt by the brain to rest and reinvigorate itself. It's a necessary cognitive break.
And the research shows that when employers try to block those distracting sites, the behavior doesn't stop. People just find another way to take that break, but now there's this added layer of stress and distrust.
It's all about the limits of attention. We know from education research that students can only really pay attention for about an hour.
And online, it's even less. For an instructional video, you're looking at maybe 6 minutes before the mind starts to wander.
And neuroscience shows that even when we are trying our hardest to focus, our attention is curving up and down multiple times per minute.
Yeah, the brain is constantly taking these micro breaks for daydreaming and mental fatigue. It's how we're wired. We are not machines.
But our culture, especially pop culture, constantly tells us we should be.
Oh, absolutely. The media has very little grace for human limitations, especially when they come from trauma.
The example from Avengers. Endgame is perfect. Thor goes through this immense trauma and loss, and he responds by becoming withdrawn, alcoholic, and non-productive.
A completely normal human reaction to grief.
And how does the movie treat it? They put him in a fat suit and make him the butt of the joke. His suffering is mocked because it made him unproductive.
The message is clear. Your suffering is only acceptable if you maintain your physique and your ability to contribute. The second you check out to heal, you become pathetic.
And online, with content creators, that pressure is taken to a deadly extreme.
You have streamers broadcasting for 24 or 36 hours straight, often falling asleep on camera.
And in one really tragic case, the book cites a streamer actually died on camera after streaming for 22 hours straight.
It's the ultimate toxic endpoint of the laziness lie. This constant, visible performance of exhaustive dedication.
And the lie has now completely infected our free time through the gamification of hobbies and learning.
Oh, the apps, Duolingo, Code Academy, they're designed to be addictive. They use badges, points, leaderboards.
And fear, that scolding Duolingo owl if you miss a day.
Right. And the result is that learning stops being about joy and becomes a compulsive activity. You're not learning Spanish, you're maintaining your streak.
The book talks about Taylor, who started learning to code and found that it just took over. Their old passions, like writing and painting, started to feel subordinate, less important.
Because they weren't quantifiable, they
Right.
didn't produce badges or marketable skills. Free time became another performance metric.
And social media is the main arena for that performance, isn't it? Turning human connection into an achievement-obsessed process.
A total arms race of busyness, competing for likes, followers, clout.
This fuels what psychologists call upward social comparison. We use the curated, seemingly perfect lives of influencers as a stick to beat ourselves with.
Which is why the confession of that Instagram star, Essena O'Neill, was so important.
She was huge, 500,000 followers, living this perfect-looking life, and then she quit and revealed the truth behind the photos.
She confessed that one effortless bikini shot took over 100 attempts to make her stomach look good, that her workout photos were the result of calorie restriction and punishing exercise.
It's all manufactured, and that manufactured perfection breeds intense anxiety and guilt in the people watching. Studies confirm it leads to lower self-esteem and higher rates of depression.
The system needs us to feel insecure, it keeps us productive, trying to catch up, and it keeps us profitable, buying the things the influencers are selling.
So that's the diagnosis. It's pretty heavy, but the book doesn't just leave us there. It offers real, evidence-based strategies for healing.
And the first step is the simplest, but also the hardest. Embracing active rest and self-acceptance.
Like Max, the writer with the gallbladder surgery, she was forced into 2 weeks of bed rest.
And she told Dr. Price, without any irony, that those 2 weeks were the best of her adult life.
It wasn't just physical rest, was it? It was mental. She found that when she was super stressed at work, she could only handle simple TV shows like Bob's Burgers.
But once she was truly rested, she got her mental capacity back. She could enjoy her real passions again, like bloody horror films.
It speaks to the power of idle time. The idea for Hamilton came to Lin-Manuel Miranda when he was on vacation. His brain finally had a moment to breathe, and this brilliant idea just walked in.
We have to stop measuring our worth by a to-do list and start seeking things that actually nourish us.
Okay, so if the lie is built on repressing feelings of inadequacy and exhaustion, we need a tool to actually process those feelings.
And Dr. Price points to a technique called expressive writing, developed by Dr. James Pennebaker.
It sounds simple. You just write continuously for 20 minutes about something causing you emotional upheaval.
The key is you don't stop. You don't worry about spelling or grammar. You just keep the pen moving. And you can throw the pages out right after.
Why does that work?
Because it forces you to confront feelings you'd normally push down to appear strong. It's a cognitive processing tool. It's especially effective for people trained to repress emotions, like military personnel with PTSD. The privacy of it removes the fear of judgment.
And Dr. Price's own experience with it was profound. After a few weeks of doing this, they realized they weren't crying themselves to sleep anymore.
They started actually communicating their feelings as they happened, instead of letting resentment build for months. The writing helped them identify the patterns.
And for a simpler, more universal anchor point, the book gives us the metaphor of the compassionate chinchilla.
Yes, Dr. Price's pet chinchilla, Dump Truck.
I love that name.
It's great. And Dump Truck's entire existence is a challenge to the laziness lie. All he does is eat, sleep, and destroy wooden toys. He produces nothing of economic value.
And yet, no one thinks he needs to earn his right to rest or play. His worth is just innate because he exists.
And the question is, if we can grant that fundamental compassion to a furry rodent, why can't we extend it to ourselves?
That reframing is a great transition to setting practical boundaries, starting with work and information.
In the workplace, we have to advocate for autonomy. The research is crystal clear on this. Employee freedom, flex time, remote work leads to higher satisfaction and better performance.
And for employees trapped in a toxic job, the lie often convinces them that leaving is giving up or being lazy.
When in reality, leaving an abusive environment is the highest form of self-preservation, not a moral failure.
Beyond work, we have to set limits on how much information we consume. We all feel this pressure to be informed about every crisis all the time.
But it's damaging. The American Psychological Association found that while 95% of Americans try to stay current on the news, for 56% of them, it causes significant stress.
It's not just emotional either. It damages our cognitive abilities. When we're overloaded with negative input, we can't focus, we don't retain information, and we get much worse at spotting fake news or scams.
So we need strategic filtering. Mute keywords on social media. Unfollow accounts that cause anxiety.
Here.
And focus your energy on one or two causes you can actually do something about locally instead of being paralyzed by global crises.
And to combat the superficial way we read online, we need to practice active reading.
Right, which involves 6 core skills. First, you visualize what the text is describing. Build a mental picture.
Second, clarify anything you don't understand. Look up words. Don't just skim past them.
Third, question the author's assumptions. Why are they presenting it this way?
Fourth, predict what's coming next. This keeps your brain engaged.
Fifth, connect the material to what you already know. That's how you build real knowledge.
And finally, sixth, evaluate the quality of the writing and the argument.
These 6 skills force you to slow down and consume less, but what you do consume, you actually understand and retain. Ultimately, it's about getting comfortable with not knowing everything.
And that humility is definitely needed when we get to our relationships, which the lie often fills with invisible labor.
Yes, the second shift. The emotional labor of managing a household, which often falls disproportionately on one partner. And when they finally complain, they get that infuriating response.
Well, why didn't you tell me?
Which puts the burden of monitoring and assigning the labor right back on the person who's already doing all the invisible work.
So setting boundaries with demanding people is key, but it has to be gradual.
Yes. Counselors say you start by clearing up unspoken expectations. You have to name what's being asked of you.
Then you warn the person you'll be pulling back. And you can even use the language of busyness as an excuse, if you need to soften the blow.
Third, you practice saying no to small things first. Build up that muscle.
And finally, don't be afraid to be a broken record. You just have to keep repeating your boundary calmly and firmly until they get it.
It's a process. And nowhere is that pressure to be perfect more intense than in parenting.
Parents are just bombarded with judgment and conflicting advice. It's suffocating.
Which is why the book champions the idea of the good enough parent. Perfection doesn't exist, and it's not even healthy for the kid. A good enough parent provides love, shelter, and food, and they make mistakes.
And they're not afraid to have their own lives. The book talks about Aiden, a stay-at-home dad who just embraced it.
He says they eat a lot of microwave chicken tenders, and sometimes the kids go to bed without a bath. And that's okay. The goal isn't flawlessness, it's sustainability.
So, this entire deep dive, it's really an exploration of how the laziness lie is just a cultural fiction, one rooted in fear.
To really summarize the central message, laziness is a myth. What we call apathy is almost always a sophisticated self-preservation signal from our bodies that we have been trained to ignore. Our worth is not tied to our to-do list, it's intrinsic.
And the final crucial point is that unlearning this is not a quick fix, it's a lifelong project.
It is. Dr. Price is very honest that they still struggle with it. They get impatient with slow walkers or judgy when a friend doesn't make a change they said they would.
And that honesty is so important because it shows that growth isn't linear. We all have those knee-jerk, indoctrinated reactions.
The key is what you do next. You notice the thought, you challenge it with the evidence we've been talking about, and you consciously let it go.
The path forward, then, is self-compassion. Replacing that judgment with a kind of compassionate curiosity. Instead of calling yourself a failure, you ask, what barriers are in my way right now? What need am I trying to meet?
Exactly. This isn't about winning a trophy for being the most zen person. It's about honoring your intrinsic value, looking at your life through the lens of compassion, not achievement.
So just like Dumb Trick the chinchilla, whose worth comes from just being. Eating, sleeping, destroying toys, we have to internalize that for ourselves. You don't need to earn the right to rest. You are fine exactly the way you are.